Hey everybody. Mic is working, camera is on, light is decent, and we are live. All right. So, I'm going to play with some CSS stuff tonight. This is obviously a live stream. This is not a um orchestrated, well-produced event. I am not having a bunch of intros and fun animations and transitions and things like that. I mean, I have my other camera, but I generally just do a single camera and do some coding. And that's basically what I'm going to do today and play with some code. I want to talk a little bit about DNS because I talked previously about that and was like, oh yeah, probably something I should talk about. So I'm going to talk a little bit about DNS and we're going to play with some code. Cool. Yeah, one of the animations that I was playing with is something like this. So you can see how the background is changing, and if you pay attention, the actual border is changing on it also. And all that is just a simple website with some CSS animation. Not really complicated. There's so many overlay people building things out there and things like that. And I'm just going to give you some examples of CSS, where to find it, how to do it. More often than not, you can probably find what you want and then tweak it. I was looking at, I'll show you. There was, so for those who watch streaming a lot, streaming channels, not me, the streaming stuff is like Tubi is one of them and it has a really cool intro. Hulu has probably one of my favorite intros. And I was watching those animations come through and I was like, I wonder if I can do that in CSS. Well, I don't have to. Somebody already did most of them. Anyway, so I started playing and things like that. So let's get into it and I'm going to show you some code. So the first thing I want to show you is not camera 2, but this. So in here, this is CodePen. Uh, if you're not familiar with CodePen, learn it, love it. It's amazing. If I just go to codepen.io, it will take me to, because I'm logged in to my work. These are some of the animations I took from other people. I did not create these. I actually did create this one, um, but we'll come back to it. Oh yeah, I found a Three.js eclipse. So everyone familiar with the eclipse that happened recently? You don't need to go outside. You can actually just watch it on CSS. It's really that simple. If I want to run it again, there you go. There's your eclipse. All right, let's get back to. So some of the CSS animations that I've seen out there is things like this, right? And you can actually, this specifically, you can do straight in CSS. And a lot of people are like, well, why would I not use a certain level of JavaScript? There's some cool things I can do with JavaScript. Great example. If you're doing email campaigns or any type of email, you can include JavaScript in email. You can do CSS and you can link to images. There are certain CSS tricks that you can't do in email. I don't think most email browsers will support animated frames and keyframes. So you can't do really cool animations. They also don't let you go out of the scope of what you're watching. So if you can't do like parent references and when you do HTML layouts, everything must be in a table and you have to do that kind of really annoying layout. I did HTML for email for a while and realized how, I guess, backwards it's been and it never progressed. I think it's still in the table format. But what I'm using here is just a background GIF with, and I can change this to say anything. Um, Hello again. And just like that, that text will change and the background stays the same. What's really cool about that is I am actually using an animated GIF to do that animation in an email. So if let's say, hey, thank you for joining my Substack, or thank you for signing up, or one of those kind of emails, you can actually just use an animated GIF. You can actually copy this exact HTML and CSS and actually embed it. When you do CSS, make sure you do inline CSS for email. Generally, I am highly against inline CSS, but most email uh, clients do not support CSS files. They definitely don't support external files. So you have to do it as an inline. So it's a lot of security risks that they're trying to protect people. So I can send an email and then I can make you do things you don't want to do and things like that. So we don't want to, they generally protect against that, but you can still include an animated GIF and it will actually render it. And it'll look something like this. So this is one of the really, really simple ways to do animation. Find a GIF and make it the background. That's it. Now let's get into a more fun one. So this is literally just a bouncing ball that scales. And if you've seen Tubi, it actually has this kind of blue background and it has this ball that goes across, comes back, and then it actually spells out the word Tubi. I haven't done the SVG to spell out Tubi, but this is the kind of concept. And the way I did this is, well, the background, right? But all it is just a keyframe with different levels, 80. I was playing with the numbers. I can probably get rid of some of these. Honestly, like I generally, well, actually I'll leave that one. 25 and then 50, make this 75, and make this 100. And you can see the changes. I already have 100. So let's just get rid of this. And let's see what that looks like. Boom. There you go. A lot smoother. It's a little scaling, a little too big. Let's do 5. Yep, great. And I can actually position, we'll do the top to be 40. There. So now, perfect. Boom. That was fun. But all this is doing, I'm including the name of the animation. And then it's taking 2 seconds. If I change this to 12, you'll watch it go super slow. And because I'm using this rather than, here, let me copy this and I'll type in linear. If I do a linear, you'll see it actually not bounce as much. It'll just go step by step. And then the other one that everyone loves is ease in and out. And then you'll see it speed up, pause, and then go out. But that doesn't go fast enough for me. So I actually did my own. And this goes a little bit faster, especially if I do this. Boom. And you can see how it's kind of bouncing. Anyway, basic CSS. I include animation, tell it what to use for the keyframes, how long it takes, the line I want it to follow, how many times I want to do it. And the alternate means play it forward and then play it backwards, and then play it forward and play it backwards. If I click on reverse, it will always start from the right and then play it. See? So it's always starting from the right. But what I wanted to do is actually have it bounce back and forth. So to do that, I simply do alternate. And then it'll actually play to the right and then play it in reverse. And that's basic CSS animation. Kind of fun, kind of cool. But let's go back to here. And I was talking about the Hulu animation. So I literally type in Hulu intro and somebody's already done it. And it looks pretty good. Oh, obviously the font's not right for actual Hulu, but that animation is great. And whoever this person is, good job. It looks really, really good. And then there was another one, I think, which is, I wonder if he just forked from him because they look way too similar. Hulu text. He's using green sock. And it's like, what's green sock? Yeah, it's the same. They copied from each other. It's great. Anyway, great intro. Let's talk about green sock real quick because I can't say it without talking about it. Uh, so green sock does really cool animations, and that's literally what it's designed for. And you'll see you can do it on scroll. You can literally animate anything. You can scroll hijack as I'm scrolling down. It is scrolling to the right. And this is used by so many people. Um, it's actually pretty good. Of course, there's a price. Library cores and tools. See, even like their hover states are even cool. And it's based off of where I'm entering. And you can see where I'm entering and the different animations. And then watch the top left, like watch up here as I hover, how it's actually animating that. But it's great. No commercial license, ideal for the solo animation professional. So $199, have it all, commercial license. So you can actually use it for commercial things. Obviously, you can use it to play with for free. Highly recommended to play with it, get familiar with it. It's kind of nice. I've used it. I like to understand how it's doing some of the things it's doing. It does a lot with JavaScript, but it's it's fun. All right. Oh yeah, I click on restart. So even that initial animation of the gradient fading was pretty cool. Pretty fun. All right, so let's actually do some of this code against what you're looking at right now. So if I go to the main camera, right? I have transitions here. You probably saw those cameras. You see how it fades in and out. I can actually change the way it transitions. Right now it's a blend. I'll change it to watercolor. And now if I come here, you see how it's a different transition. Or I can do the typical fade, which is simply just a fade transition. Not as much fun. I really like the blend. And I think I can actually do permissions of that. Oh yeah, properties. Let's see. Softness, preview transition, image fractal. We'll say okay. And then I will come back to camera here. Camera 2. Okay. And then back to here. All right. So what I'm going to play with now is this. So you can see the animations and I have my logo down here. If I want to turn on live text, I can have the live up there. But what I want to do is talk about these transitions of the background and the border. And I'm going to get rid of the background one to start. And that one is really easy because all I have to do is comment that out. And I know you can't see it. Um, great. So that should be commented out. Now the background should be solid. And now you'll see the border start changing in a relatively smooth way. And all I'm doing is actually changing the border radius. So for you to see that, I have to show you the code, which would be here. All right, so now we're in the code, and I will actually pull up that website. And I'm doing this all local, So, and this should be here. Let's just see what it is. Yeah. I think it's full camera. Main camera, overlay, properties. Yeah, it is full camera. Great. Let's get back to here. Get back to here. And great. So this is my overlay. And what this overlay does, and you can see the background changing. It's actually kind of funny that this is actually already being green screened out. I probably could add something to this right now. I'm going to try something. Add scene. And we'll do scene. That's kind of funny. I think I can make this work. That's good enough. Screen capture. And I want the logo on top of that. There. It's really that easy to do overlays, by the way. I can't actually, it's kind of funny. I can't show you the overlay in this because it's actually a green screen, and the green screen is me in the green screen. Anyway, let's get to the code, and that's really cool. How the circular camera needs to be. Here, let's move this above it. There I am. Okay, so now when I go to the code, sorry, you're getting way too much of me right now. All right, so let's go back to the code. So now you can see me and we can talk through this code. So I commented out the border, the background, so we can just focus on the border. And on the border for the camera full, remember I had this with the infinite and alternate. That's all I'm doing, and I made it 10 seconds. If I do it less than that, and I come back to here, you can see that border is like psychedelic changing, right? But all I have to do is change it to even 5 will probably slow it down. You see how it's slower now and it's transitioning? You can see it right up here. Pretty cool. Minor animations, cool effect, subtlety, and all that's doing, I have an initial box shadow right here. Ta-da! That initial box shadow will draw, well, that's a box shadow. And then all I'm doing for the animation is changing between the box shadows. So I have that color to start, that in the middle, and that to end. And then when you're watching the transition, you can actually see the color. Here, let's do it. You can see the color up here. That's the start, there's the middle, and there's the end. And that's gives you the kind of pulsing effect that you want. Or maybe you don't, I don't know. But it's really that easy to do that, which is kind of funny that the circle camera actually works. So to do overlays with, I'm looking, that was funny. I was looking at my mouse on OBS on the other screen. Anyway, it's just, there's a lot going on. So let's get back to the code just so you can understand. Here's our border flow, here's our box shadow, here's our secondary box shadow. These are the keyframes, 0, 50%, and 70%. I could probably change this to 100% just to make it more consistent. And then you'll watch at the top here, you can see it pulse. pulse, and then pulse to the final, and then back to the original. And the reason it's starting, I'm doing alternate, so it actually will play through that animation all the way through, and then it'll play that animation back. And that's it. Super, super easy to add animations. If you're you're like, how do I do animations? So CSS animations, right? So if you come here, you can see a lot of CSS animations. And these are the color change ones, right? And it's just changing the background color. And this is animation duration, animation name. So what I like to do is do it all in one. And I will do example 4-second infinite alternate. Let's get rid of that garbage. And then I run this. And then you'll see it go through all of it. And it should end on green and then go back to blue, yellow, and red, red, yellow, blue, green. So now it's actually going forwards and backwards on each one of these. Super fun. Great place to just play with some other animations. You can come back here and you can see delays of animation, how long an animation should run. Oh, right. So you can break it all down by this, right? So you can have animation name, duration, iteration count, and all of that. Or you can do it all in one line, which is kind of a shortcut, which makes it a lot easier. There's the reverse that it was talking about. And then the speed of the curve, right? So you, on a cubic Bezier curve, you can actually write your own algorithm. Now everyone's like, oh, that cubic Bezier curve, how do you actually do that? Well, guess how I do it. Cubic Bezier curve generator. And you come here and you start playing with it. And what's really fun is you can actually play with it here. So this will actually make it linear, right? If I line all of this up perfectly, that's going to be a linear. And I can click on compare and you'll see it pretty much go identical, right? But if I do this and I do this and then I do a compare, keep in mind I'm comparing to linear right here. If I click on go, you see how it jumped at the very beginning and then picked up the pace at the end. So let's make that a little less and then do it like this. Boom, boom. Right? And you can actually play with all of that. So then it'll jump almost all the way to the end and then it'll finish. Right? Or you can slow it down here and you can slow it down to the end. I like it right about there. Like that. And then you have your ease in and out, which is basically what I just created right here, by the way. So mine just starts a little faster and finishes a little slower. You can slow it down. And once you have it, you can copy this and there is your answer. And you can get it to exactly where you want it to be with these kind of tools. You can see what the ease out does that you're comparing it to. And then ease in means it's going to start slow and just finish. Boom. And that's it. That's the simple CSS version of animations. You can always use a background GIF. And keep in mind, you can animate anything. What I'm doing here is I'm animating multiple things. And just so you can see it, I am animating both the X position, I am scaling it, and I'm both on the X and the Y. And that's what I'm doing. And it's that simple. Kind of fun. Let's go back to the camera. All right, so that's all for CSS animations tonight. DNS. So DNS hosting. And there are, and I will just show you because it's fun that way. So DNS and DNS, sorry, I was talking about CSS animation. DNS hosting, there are so many, obviously sponsored, 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 sponsored. So this is the first one that's not sponsored. And this is actually a Wikipedia page is the next part. What is DNS? Right? So domain name service is actually what it is. And all it does is tells the internet where to find you or where to find your site. And it does, I mean, it does more than that, but that's the 90% case of what people use DNS for. And they'll use things like a lot of different DNS entries. MX records, that's how you get your mail and how you can actually prevent some spamming and keep your identity safe. There's C names and A records and all of that. You can get into all of that generally. You can go really deep into what you can do with DNS and you can how you handle permanent redirects and being able to have multiple domains pointing to the same IP address and then how that host gets managed on the server. And there's a lot of different things you can do with it. However, most people are just getting started and they're like, I want a website. And everyone's like, you got to get a domain. And what does that mean? Registering a domain is one part, right? Then you need a name server. Once you register that domain, you own the domain, and most people will park it. They call it parking it. They'll park it for free. And then you have to actually have a website that's hosted somewhere. And they will say, please update your A record and put this in your DNS. What an A record is your primary record for your website, is the easiest way to put it. C names are generally used for subdomains, and you can actually have your primary domain as your A record and your C name to be something else. So a great example is, and I will show you, startups and code. So for those who've been to my site, one, thank you. And I am working on a Substack. Don't sign up for that yet. I'm not ready. So I have this, and this is on Startups and Code. And you can come here, connection secure, site setting, about this page. And what's really fun, I want to make sure. I am going to go to Startups and Code here. Something I like to do on a regularly kind of a frequent level. Lighthouse, we're going to do it real time in front of everybody. So I like to do performance tests, even on my own site. Everyone's like, why do you care? I was like, because performance matters. Security first, performance number two, and then all the fun stuff. A lot of people like to do some fun things. Best practices 56. What changed? Deprecated. Oh, I'm not using that. Oh, it's probably because I need to do an incognito window. So let's do an incognito. Let's come here, inspect. Just so you know, the reason I was getting those errors is because I have plugins that I use, and those plugins will affect performance on a site. Mainly because it will write things to the site and do things I don't necessarily want it to do. Like I said, I was doing it live. So now, much better. Why not 100? I want 100. Now I kind of want 100. All right, let's try it one more time. There are some latency issues that will happen. Maybe because I'm streaming, it's giving a slight delay. I don't know. It's getting worse. Let's do one more. Because when you get full hundreds, it actually does CSS, it does an animation. And it's kind of fun. Let's see. It's not going to give me 100 tonight, is it? And yes, I've put this comment in my console just because why not? And seriously, why are you looking at my console? All right, I don't think I'm going to get 100 while I'm streaming. What is missing? There's probably some image I need to cache better. But still, I'm happy with that. Back to the DNS. Sorry, I got distracted. So, this is one website, right? And if I want to, and I go to the blog, you'll actually see that this is a completely different site. And this is obviously hosted on Medium. And on this site, because it's hosted on Medium, it's still the same, Startups in Code. However, this is a CNAME. So from the DNS records, this is actually a CNAME and not my A record. My A record would be Startups in Code. And everyone's like, should I use www or not? I was like, I don't care. As long as if you do a www, then make sure it points uh, as the primary, and then if somebody types in your domain.com, it should redirect to the www. If they type in www, it should redirect to the non-www, whichever one you want to do. And that's the basics of DNS. And I will say A records DNS. Yeah, it's the address. It's the fundamental type of what I said. Cloudflare, huge fan of Cloudflare DNS records, right? And this is actually what it would look like. And you would enter an IP address. That TTL stands for time to live. And oh, yeah, there it is. So that time to live basically is how long it takes for that DNS to actually truly get updated. And then after you make a DNS change, DNS propagation. And then from here, you'll go and you'll search and you'll make sure that that IP address is real. So let's do medium.com. If I spelled it right. Medium search. And these are all the IP addresses that is on the A record. And then let's see if there's any CNAMEs for it. There are none. But I love doing DNS propagation checks to make sure that the IP address that it's returning, and it'll check it globally, is the address that it should be. So that's just something to be aware of. Cool. And I am going back to here, not to here, back to here. Great. So that was a brief talk about DNS, how to enter A records. You can use any DNS provider you want. I have used, let's see, ones I've used. I've used Bluehost, I've used GoDaddy, I've used HostGator, I've used Google Domains, which is why I'm talking about it because that doesn't exist anymore. Google has now, domains.google.com has been acquired by Squarespace. So Squarespace is now the owner of those records moving forward. So Squarespace does DNS entry and Cloudflare does DNS, and I've used them also. There's another one Namecheap.com. That one actually does really cool hosting and really cheap, hence the name cheap. You can get domains pretty cheap there and pretty consistently. There was a lot of people asked me, GoDaddy was huge for a while and they've been pretty much, they were the default answer to actually install or to register a domain. And since then, I've seen so many other places pop up. Registering with GoDaddy, I highly recommend it. They're great for DNS specifically. I am not a fan of their website builder. I like to do things outside of what they provide. I've used Squarespace, I've used Wix, I've done WordPress, I've done a lot of them, and it depends on what you want to do. Out of the big generated ones that are out there, Squarespace is great. It's nice, it's easy, it's pretty straightforward. If you want a little bit more control over things, look into Webflow. Webflow gives you a little bit more on the engineering side of things. So register your domain and then you can host it on Webflow. It's nice. Obviously, I'm a fan of Vercel because I love Next.js. I I love what Next.js has done with React and how easy it is to actually do optimizations and get websites to 100% and increase performance and actually give you some warnings when you're actually building those sites. Probably my favorite static site generator out there. I could talk about static site generators for days. It's kind of funny. Actually, I do want to show you this while you're here. Static site generators. And I think it's here. Yeah, it is here. So watch this. Site generators. Next.js is number one because it should be. But then there is 355 different static site generators. 355. Do we need 355 things that do primarily the same thing? It's insane. Uh, I have used Next.js. I've used Jekyll. I've used Gatsby. I've heard of Docusaurus. Um, it's a very content-based one. Uh, so 11D I actually used a long time ago. That was fun. But it's there's one that was called, it was a Smith, but it was a different one. I guess it kind of faded away. It's kind of crazy. There's obviously you can scroll through this and oh, Blacksmith. That's what it was. I've used Blacksmith before. That was actually kind of nice. It's dropped in its rankings. Yeah. And if you look at the rankings, like, so Hugo is number 2, which is this. Next.js has 112,000 stars, and the closest second one has 70,000. So if you're going to do a static site generation and you're not using Next.js, ask yourself why. Uh, that's it. There's a lot of static site generators. It's literally jamstack.org. If you come here, you'll see everything. But yeah, site generators. And then they also have headless CMSs, and there's 119 of them. Where's content? So funny. Oh, these are, I guess, open source versions of them. See? So this, oh, that's funny. You can see that green screen depends on here the color, and it actually is doing that pretty well. It's kind of funny. You can actually run an entire website based off of a Google Sheet and some Google Docs, and you can have a production site. Is it really production? Just because it's live doesn't mean it's production. All right. I'll let you play with your Jamstack and look at all the different site generators and things you can actually go see what's out there. But highly recommend Next.js if you're going to do it. For DNS, I would recommend using something like Cloudflare. It has an amazing CDN. It has a free tier too, so can't beat free. And it's really easy to upgrade if you're going to use Cloudflare. So that is all I wanted to chat about tonight. Thanks for coming by. It is 8:40. So I got some feedback this week from a viewer. I'll just leave it at that. And it was because I was starting later and I would have my welcome screen up too long. And I just want to let you know, keep in mind these are not produced, and these are not like, I don't have intros for a lot of it. I don't have titles. I don't break things down into chapters. I don't allow it. I don't have really fun transitions. I'm not using, like, I am not a gamer streamer. I am just somebody who loves to code and love to work with teams and building fun stuff. And because of that, I've done some video production and I can actually do that. And if you want more video production stuff, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to take you through the video production of things. I am a little spoiled because my brother-in-law is a video production like guy based out of Atlanta, and he does amazing stuff. I put a link on a previous one. But the like people will point to something and you're like, "Oh, there's a link right there." And there's not. Don't look there. I will not have links all the time. I won't have all these pop up things that will come. My audience subscribers, oh, new subscriber, and all of that. I don't do all of that. Maybe I will in the future, but right now I am just trying to be consistent on my content and just hopefully giving you little tidbits that make your life a little bit easier with tech. So if you want to tune into more produced and like I'm gonna normalize my volume levels and make sure my lighting is correct and then edit and then take out some of the pause, blah blah blah, filler words and all of that and cut it up so it's actually shorter and it's a lot more succinct. To go to my podcast. My podcast is generally I do an episode on Sundays. Uh, I've been doing it. I've done like 10, maybe 11 episodes, so you can catch up pretty quickly. They're not that long. They're easy to tune in, and they are very, very succinct. And they are edited, and they do have some of that pop up stuff that people want and high levels of video production. Like these kind of things. I don't know. Streamers fascinate me. I think I never thought of myself as a streamer, but here I am. All right. That's all for tonight. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will see y'all next Tuesday. And I will talk to you later. Bye.